Breaking news! The Baltimore Ravens are making waves in the NFL, especially with the latest rumors about Max Crosby. Honestly, I think it's very unlikely that the Ravens will sign him. It would be great, but at this point, it would be a bit complicated. Well, this weekend will be very busy behind the scenes, because Monday is the big game against the Bucs. We need to analyze some important points. If you believe that the Ravens will win this matchup, press the like button. If you believe that the Bucs will win, press the dislike button. I believe in our team. Lamar Jackson is a phenomenon, and I'm sure he will shine once again. Speaking of Jackson, we need to talk about him. The buzz around him only increases. Over the years, we've heard a lot of debate about Lamar, right? From analysts, fans, and everyone in between. But here's the thing. When players talk about Lamar, the impact is different. And recently, we had none other than former NFL star Luke Kuechly talk about Lamar on the Kay Adams show, and boy, was it something special. Kuechly, who knows a thing or two about top-tier football, said something that might surprise some of you. He believes Lamar Jackson is just entering the prime of his career. Now, I know what you're thinking. Lamar has already won 2 MVPs, right? How could that not be his prime? But Kuechly's point, and I kind of agree with him, is that while Lamar has had some incredible seasons, his best football may yet come. Imagine that for a second. As great as Lamar has been, with better weapons around him, we could be witnessing the beginning of an even more dominant era. And it's true, Ravens fans. Look at this season so far. Lamar's thrown for over 300 yards in back-to-back games, and he's making it look easy. We've got Mark Andrews playing at a high level, but now we've added Zay Flowers into the mix, and that 12 personnel package is causing defenses some serious headaches. They don't know if we're going to run or pass, and that unpredictability is a big part of why we're having so much success. Kuechly pointed this out too, talking about how versatile our offense is with guys like Pat Ricard and Isaiah Likely. It's keeping defenses on their toes. But here's where things get even more interesting. There's been a lot of talk about adding even more firepower to the offense. Can you imagine if we added someone like Derrick Henry or even Max Crosby? Now, before you get too excited, let me be clear. There's no official word on that happening. But these rumors are out there. And with the trade deadline approaching, anything is possible. I mean, if the Raiders are willing to let go of big names like Davante Adams, who's to say someone like Crosby couldn't be next? Now, would the Ravens be willing to part with 2 first-round picks for a guy like Crosby? That's a steep price. But man, it's fun to think about what that could do for this team. But back to Lamar. One of the things I've always believed, and Kuechly touched on this too, is that Lamar hasn't always had the best weapons around him. Sure, he's had some great seasons, but just imagine if he had elite talent at every position on the offense. This year, we're starting to see that come together. Flowers, Andrews, and even Nelson Aguilar have stepped up, and it's showing in the results. Lamar's looking more comfortable in the pocket, and his decision-making has been on point. He's more poised than ever, and you can tell he's playing with confidence. Now, I know some of you have been wondering about our defense. Yeah, there's been some talk about struggles, especially in the secondary. But let's not forget, the Ravens are still a top-tier team on both sides of the ball, and while there's always room for improvement, we've got the talent to make it work. Roquan Smith's had a bit of a slow start by his standards, but I think he's about to bounce back in a big way. And guys like Kyle Hamilton have been flying around the field, making plays when it counts. One last thing before we wrap this up. I've seen some of you asking about possible trades or changes to the roster. It's clear that the Ravens are always looking to improve, and with the trade deadline looming, anything could happen. Whether it's adding a big-name player like Crosby or finding another piece to add depth, you know Eric DeCosta is always sniffing around for something. But as of now, it seems like the Ravens are going to stick with what we've got. And honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
So, what do you think, Ravens flock? Is Lamar truly entering the prime of his career, or do you think we've already seen the best from him? And what about these trade rumors? Should the Ravens make a big move, or are we set with the squad we've got? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We've got some big news heading into Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you'll want to stick around until the end because this one's going to spark some serious debate. So, So, let's dive into what's been brewing down in Tampa. Greg Allman, a longtime Bucs insider now with Fox Sports, recently dropped some crucial injury updates, and it's not looking great for their star wide receiver, Mike Evans. Evans, who's been dealing with a nagging hamstring injury, sat out of Wednesday's practice, and while it's still early in the week, there's a real question mark over whether he'll be 100% by Monday night. Even if he does suit up, don't expect him to be the deep ball threat we're used to seeing. Greg mentioned that Evans could be more of a decoy, which might limit his snap count. However, he's still a dangerous weapon in the red zone. His chemistry with Baker Mayfield on those short yardage lobs and fade routes could be something the Ravens defense will need to be ready for. Now, let's talk about Baker Mayfield. I know, Ravens fans have their own history with him from his AFC North days, but it looks like Mayfield's found new life in Tampa. After bouncing around a few teams and landing with the Bucs on a prove-it deal, Baker has done just that. He's not the same quarterback who struggled with turnovers and inconsistencies. This season, Baker's playing smart football, and his confidence has rubbed off on the whole team. Sure, he had a rough outing last week with 3 interceptions, but 2 of those were off deflections, meaning the Ravens secondary can't sleep on him, especially considering how he's performed against us in the past. He's faced the Ravens defense 9 times, and has a 3-6 record. That experience could give him an edge as he looks to exploit some of the holes in Baltimore's secondary. Speaking of matchups, the Bucs offense is showing surprising balance. After struggling with their run game in recent seasons, they've made strides, highlighted by a massive 277-yard rushing performance against the Saints. They're not just leaning on Rachaad White anymore. They've got young backs like Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker stepping up. If the Ravens can lock down their running game, that's going to be a huge advantage. But let's not forget, Tampa's no slouch in the air either. Chris Godwin has been carrying the load while Evans heals up. He's among the league leaders in catches and yards, so if Evans isn't at full speed, Godwin becomes even more of a focal point. Now, I know Ravens fans are probably feeling pretty good about our run defense, currently ranked number 1 in the league, and rightfully so. But what about that 31st ranked pass defense? Greg mentioned that the Bucs will likely try to challenge us through the air, especially if they can't establish the run. This could turn into another high-scoring affair, similar to what we've seen in recent weeks. You've got Lamar Jackson playing some of his best football, leading a Ravens offense that's just too much for most defenses to handle, and Tampa Bay is aware of that. Their defense is respectable, but the challenge of stopping Lamar, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and that whole unit might be too overwhelming for them to contain. Another key factor will be Baker's decision-making. Despite those 3 picks last week, Greg stressed that Baker's been much better about avoiding turnovers this season. Now, I want to hear from you, Ravens flock. How do you think our defense will handle Baker Mayfield and that Bucs offense? Do you see us continuing our dominant streak? Or do you think the Bucs could surprise us on their home turf? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, hit that like button and subscribe for more Ravens updates. Let's go Ravens.